You're listening to Del Aware. Here's Peter MacArthur.
On this Thursday morning, June 4th, another 1.87 million people filing for unemployment last week. It brings the total number up to about 42 million since this mess all started. And we've been talking with Chris Burkhard, Placer Staffing in Newark, about if you are unemployed, tips that can put you on the right track to securing your next position. And we're all over the map with this. Many different levels, obviously, to getting a job. And so Chris is here with us again this morning. Chris, good morning.
Good morning, Pete. Thanks for giving me a chance to help.
Oh, you bet. Hey, listen, let me ask you this to start out. Let's talk about the interview process. And one of the things we talked about within that process is the importance of bringing to the table good questions for you, the job seeker, to ask the would-be employer. And a lot of people don't spend a lot of time doing that. What would be some good topics to ask within that scenario?
Pete, the first thing is, I think this is an easy thing to learn. It just requires preparation. You just got to know what to do. And I break it down into 8 areas. And I think probably the best way to do it is maybe take them one at a time and give an example of a good question. But I should say this, just to kind of put my money where my mouth is. If anybody wants help with this, I'm happy to give my personal business email. And, of course, they can reach us through myplacers.com. But we'll make sure people get this stuff in writing. Right now, just get the concept. I think the first is asking questions about the job itself. It's okay to ask what a typical day might be. It's a great thing to do. And it's okay, as I've said to you before on the show, it's okay to have these things prepared. It shows that you're serious, that you're interested, that you put thought in this. There's nothing wrong with having these come in written out or typed out.
Yeah.
The second area I recommend is asking about training and development. Everybody has these questions. They're just not quite sure how to frame them. So how will I be trained? Or are there opportunities for advancement or professional development?
What else?
All right. So a lot of times we are very interested in how our performance is going to be measured. So maybe it's okay to ask important things like, what would you like to see me accomplish in the first 30 or 60 days? Or at the end of 1 year, how will my position be measured? We seem to shy away from that sort of front door, open discussion, when honestly that makes it so much easier on managers and leaders to discuss what that process looks like.
Yeah, and as you said, it makes it look like you care about their processes, but it also gives you an indication of whether this is a place you will thrive at. Some of the answers back could be very telling in terms of how this company goes about its business.
Pete, these questions are nothing but authentic, but they must be learned. Everyone, I'm sure when people hear them, they know, oh, yeah, I should ask that question. But these are the questions that give you the information, frankly, to be a better applicant, but probably a better employee.
Yeah. What else, Chris?
I think those that interview enjoy talking about themselves. It's human nature. So how long have they been with the company? Or what was their career path like? Or maybe what drew them to the company? And then you can sort of also ask about the team that you might be work on. You know, could you tell me about the team and you know, the different backgrounds and skills and experiences of them? And, you know, it's also nice to know maybe who you report to directly. So gathering those simple facts can probably prompt a good second or third question as well, Pete.
Yeah, that sounds like a good information to have in your pocket leaving the place. What else, Chris?
I appreciate that. So I'll kind of move through the next 3 kind of together. Okay. You know, there was something that was probably drew you to this job, and it's more than a paycheck. But it's okay to ask about the company, ask about their products and services, or maybe how their business was founded, or, you know, what do the future plans look like? You know, a lot of plans have been reset based on quarantine and COVID. So it's a very interesting question today to hear how leaders are discussing how their businesses hope to recover and thrive. Something that's very big today is what's the culture of the company? What are the company's traditions? What are the company's values? These are really okay questions because it's a very important part of the selection process. So the more you know about how that company behaves, the more you'll be able to determine if you fit in. And Pete, finally, what are the next steps? Can I answer any final questions for you? What are the next steps in the interview process? And then the toughest one of all, is there anything that concerns me about my background being a fit for this role? That's always a tough question to ask, but it's one that interviewers don't mind addressing.
Those are great pieces of advice. Thank you, Chris. And here's the other thing that reminds me of the fact that we've talked now for several weeks. And so you have people now, Chris, that are getting into the start of their third month looking for work in some cases. And it can get very exhausting mentally for a job search that's not been fruitful. What about ways to kind of keep yourself up in that process? What would you look at in terms of keeping people moving forward who haven't gotten a new job yet?
2 points. It's okay to get help. Athletes, actors, actresses have agents. They have folks that help. So why can't the everyday employee get help? And I think it starts with an understanding of maybe what step in your job search is not working. So, for example, if you're sending out resumes and you're not getting a response, well, obviously you might want to think about getting a resume review. And we have talked in past segments about resources, but the Internet, your alumni, and as I've said, Placers has an act of kindness thing. If anybody needs help, we'll just help you. And frankly, there are a lot of people that have skills that are mobilizing to help folks with these skills today.
Yeah.
But maybe you're not getting interviews, or you're getting interviews, but you're not getting next steps. Well, interview coaching, perhaps this comes down honestly to how you're interviewing. I find that folks need to understand the way they communicate. And one interesting thing is we tend to communicate in the style and language of our last employer. And I find that often doesn't translate well outside of your old company. And we don't even realize it until an objective person can tell you that.
Wow, gems as usual. That's really, really interesting. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people would think about that, Chris. Listen, we have to leave it there for now, Chris. We'll talk again next week. In the meantime, for folks that want to find out more about Placers, where should they turn?
2 things. Just search Placers Act of Kindness and fill out a simple form, or email me directly at chris@myplacers.com, and I'll get you to the right person. Thank you, Pete.
Outstanding. Thank you. Chris Burkhard joining us, Placers Staffing in Newark.